Wow. Lauretta Pierce, we've heard so much about you, everything that you've been able to accomplish coming out of the ashes. Welcome to TBN. Bless your heart.
Thank you.
We're so happy.
Thank you
now,
so much.
tell us a little about your life. Just fill the people in because it is so dramatic. It would be a great motion picture.
Yeah, I've heard that, and believe it or not, I've had some producers in Atlanta contact me about it. But, you know, when I think about my life, it was less than anything good. As a matter of fact, good, Pastor Dewey, is an understatement. I was a woman who lived a total domestic violent lifestyle. I lived in domestic violence for years. I was afraid to get out, and because of that, I had children, and I just assumed that three things, one of three, were going to happen. He was going to kill me, I was going to kill him, or he was going to kill all of us. And I stayed in it. And finally, the ultimate thing happened where one night he attempted my life. He's deceased now, and he almost murdered me. Ripped, some plastic surgeons say I was, stabbed repeatedly, but the last plastic surgeon said he literally ripped my face totally apart with his bare hands. I was paralyzed for about a year, and I have to tell you that that was only the beginning of a very traumatic life. Anyone that lived the life I lived would have been a day away from suicide. I can't tell you that I didn't contemplate it all the time. I had such a suicidal spirit, and I attempted suicide, but God. So tip of the iceberg. I later married because I was disfigured. So a gentleman offered to marry me, and I thought, it's your last chance, girl. And after years of a marriage, it didn't work out. And my ex-husband decided to leave me at a very bad time. I worked as a lab tech, and I made $13.50. And I say that because I used to tell one of the girls that work with me, every hour I make 2 5s, 3 1s, and 2 quarters. God has to have more for me than this. And that would be my daily thing. Joyce, we're making 2 5s, 3 1s, and 2 quarters every hour. And I had 3 children that were going to college. Well, 2 were in, and 1 was getting ready to go. And my husband had gone. And the first miracle out of a horrible life up to this point happened. I was on my way to work, and I began to pray. And I said, God, Peter, my youngest son, is starting college on Tuesday, and I don't have any money. My other son needed money. He was in school. My house payment was due. And I said, Lord, I don't know how you're going to do this. I really don't know. But you've got 3 days. You've got 3 days. It was Friday, and it was my payday. And I only had enough to do half of one. Half of the rent, half of Peter getting in, admitted, only half. And in the meantime, I had a girlfriend who was calling me with financial problems, and we're praying and crying together. So I get to work. But the last thing I said to the Lord was, God, my patients need me, and I've got to get it together, because I found myself crying, So I get to work, and maybe 5 minutes after I'm in the job, a young lady standing at my door, a patient, and she came in, we talked for a few minutes, and then she left. Lunchtime, she came back again and said, can I talk to you? So I went out in the parking lot, and her husband, who had fell under a machine a year ago and had his leg amputated at work, was in the car, and I thought they were coming for me to give him hugs and him show me his new leg. I would always tease him about his leg. And he said, Lauretta, I don't know what your needs are. And I thought, okay. He said, I don't know what you're believing God for, but God sent us here today. Now, the thing is, they didn't even know my last name. And he said to his wife, talk, Donna. And she said, do you remember when you saw us at a gas station and he was in the wheelchair? And I remembered. And the trailer park behind it, I didn't remember. She said, we lived there. And we had no lights, we had no water. And I used to come to the office and wouldn't have gas, and I felt so hopeless. But I told my husband that I met a woman who makes me feel like I'm somebody. And today, God woke us up because we're getting ready to go to Mexico because we just settled on a maybe $500,000 lawsuit from the amputation. And God said, go see Lauretta. And I began to cry because they really didn't know me and I didn't know them. And the husband said, that's why we rode around since 8 o'clock, because I wanted to make sure. God told us to come here. And Pastor Dewey, they wrote me a check so large that day. And I told God he had 3 days, but they wrote me in 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So in 4 hours, they wrote me a check so large that not only did my son get to college and my other son get, but my girlfriend that needed money got more of the house payment. I mean, it was the beginning of something powerful.
Now, you were going downward in this spiral, and then something starts to happen to take you in another direction. What about all the women listening? When is it time for them to not feel guilt about saying goodbye to abuse?
Amazing, because on my way here last night, flying in, God said to me, look back and say goodbye. And I remember thinking, say goodbye to what? My life is so wonderful now. So I can only imagine what I'm saying goodbye to now. But those women have to understand, you have to get to a point in abuse that you realize one of 3 things are going to happen. Someone's going to die. I mean, it happens every day. And you have got to value yourself enough to say, I'm out, I'm done. You know, there's help now. There's help.
Yeah.
But the damage that it does to you physically and emotionally, doing television, I hate doing television. Coming out, I said, you increase.
You're doing very well, don't you?
I've got to decrease.
Yeah, you're a natural.
I've got to decrease. Because I live with this every day. And I'm still paralyzed. I live with it every day.
May I tell you the truth? When I saw you tonight, the first thing I thought, what a pretty woman. Do you understand? You don't see the scar. You see the value and the beauty of that person.
Well, Dr. David Evans said healed without scars.
Yeah.
So I think God has everybody kind of like blinded to it. But he can do that. He can do anything for me. He loves me.
Yeah, he does.
He can do anything.
Now, there is a time to say goodbye. Now, you're saying one of 3 things can happen. Now, tell us the other.
The other thing is you'll lose your mind. Well, we talked about someone dying. You'll lose your mind. Your self-esteem gets so low. And for me, listen, I didn't have a degree. I had no degree. I own a awesome company right now with no degree. The only degree I had, my BA, was being born again. That's it.